Hello everyone, Mikester here, and in today's video I'm gonna be showing you my level 100 Gravity Sorcery build. This is the first build in my pursuit to create a unique and viable level 100 build for every magic class in the game, both for sorceries and incantations using only spells and skills from that magic type. If, like me, you like Gravity Sorcery's concept, think that they are unique but don't really know how to properly integrate them into a build that is pretty good both at melee and range, then this video is for you. Now before we start, please bear in mind that this is my first ever YouTube video, so I'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments. And as a bonus, I'm going to briefly show you two more alternative builds. The first one is what I like to call the Albaster Lord build. It's a strength focused build. The stats will look something like this. We will need a minimum of 18 points into intelligence, just enough to use Albaster Lord Sword and 2 spells, Rock Sling and Gravity Well. Most of our points will be put into strength, and this is how our stats will look like when fully buffed by the Wondrous Physique, bonus AR from the Spirit Ash and damage reduction from the Boiled Crab. Pretty decent AR and damage reduction if you ask me. Our main damage dealing source will be our weapon, and the spells will be complementary and used in very particular situations because they will have weak damage. Rock Sling can be used as an opener or hitting enemies that are out of reach. Gravity Well will be used only to pull an enemy to his doom, or a combo that I like to use. Jumping heavy onto an unaware target, back away, then use Gravity Well and the light or heavy attack in the end. The stuff we will use for this build is the meteorite stuff. The second build is what I like to call the push and pull build. It's a strength and intelligence hybrid. This build is a mix between melee and the weaker gravity sorceries. A minimum of 30 points into intelligence are enough to add the meteorite spell to our arsenal. The rest will go between intel and strength. This is how our stats will look like when buffed by the spirit and the boiled crab. Our main weapon will be the Onyx Lord Greatsword, which, at max upgrades, has B scaling in both strength and intelligence. We will be using the Demi-Human Queen staff, and if you want, you can use the Meteorite staff in the offhand for 30% extra damage when we use spells. I call this push and pull build because with collapsing stars we can pull a target towards us, then we can use the weapon skill which repels the enemy. Meteorite will be used to deal with enemies with bigger hitboxes. Now the third build is, in my opinion, the best build because we can showcase the true power of gravity sorceries while also being able to deal decent melee damage. And this is the build I'm going to show you into full detail. Let's begin. Being a level 100 build, every point matters, so choosing the right class from the beginning is one of the most important things. Of course, nobody forces you to stay at level 100, so if you want to go to level 120, 125 or 150, the class you choose won't matter that much. Now our build won't use Arcane and Fate, and we will need a minimum stat investment into Strength and Dexterity, just enough so we can use the weapons with the right Great Rune. For that reason, we will settle for the Prisoner class for this build. And this is how our stat spread will look at level 100. 45 points into Vigor is enough so you don't get one shot by almost anything, even in the late game. 17 points into Mind are just enough so you can cast Rock Sling 4 times before we run out of FP. 25 points into Endurance will give us a good amount of stamina, and in combination with Godric's Great Rune is enough to be able to mid-roll. 13 points into Strength and 14 into Dexterity are enough to use the weapon properly. We don't need to waste more due to the poor weapon scaling into these stats. 50 points into Intelligence will give our spells good damage, and with the Great Runes plus 5 points we'll have enough to use Lusat's staff and Meteorite of Astel. My pick for the Great Rune is Godric's Great Rune, and it's essential in making this build work smoothly at this level. We are using 5 different stats for this build, and 5 points in each stat makes Godric's Great Rune the best option. In order to obtain this rune, we will have to make Godric scream, and he will give it to us. After that, we'll make our way to the Divine Tower of Limgrave to awaken it. Now all that's left to do is to equip it at any site of grace, then use a rune arc to activate its bonus. I believe the best weapon for this build is the Iron Greatsword with the magic affinity, because it gives us a nice C scaling into intelligence when it's at max upgrades. The earliest location where the Iron Greatsword can be farmed from are the two large red-maned misbegotten in Leyndal Royal Capital. From the East Capital Rampart site of grace, go out and take a left. Run past these aggressive vapors, make a jump to the lower part of this area, then look to the right and start role-playing as Spider-Man by jumping onto the roofs, then doing parkour on the roofs until you reach the end where you jump down onto the main alleyway, go right, then straight until you reach the big door. Open the door, keep straight until the stairs, then go to the right and then straight until the end where we will find the first misbegotten. Kill it, then return to the stairs, climb until you see this small hill to the left, go onto it to avoid the other small enemies, then go to the right and straight ahead is the second misbegotten. The drop rate is pretty low, so repeat the process until it drops. After that we will want to change the affinity of the weapon to magic, so we can get that nice C scaling in intelligence and apply Gravitas Ash of War. Gravitas can be obtained from the seaside ruins Grace in Limgrave, south of the Agil Lake. Climb Torrent and go along the edge until you spot the Spirit Spring and try to jump inside its radius. Down there look for the man who taught Radan how to use gravity magic, who should be around his campsite. Tell him Radan sends his regards, then end his pathetic existence. Gravitas is very good against groups of enemies, has good range, and not only it does decent damage, but it also staggers enemies a little, allowing you to follow up with a hit. And if you also hit an enemy when you thrust the sword into the ground, you deal extra damage to that enemy. It is also good against flying enemies because it pins them to the ground, and if they don't die from the damage, they are open for a critical hit. The main staff we are going to use is Lusat Glintstone Staff, which can be found in Caelid, in Celia Town of Sorcery, after defeating the Nox Swordstress and Nox Priest duo. Behind them is a chest which contains the staff. It will offer us 295 sorcery scaling, which is not a lot, but it's the best we can get at 55 intel, and the 50% increase in FP cost won't trouble us that much, since we won't be abusing spells. But when we do use spells, make sure you also use the Meteorite Staff in the offhand to boost our damage by 30%. The Meteorite Staff can be found in the middle of Caelid. From the Aeonian Swampshore Grace, head north past the big branch and take a left, then go straight until you see this ruin with a small tower. The staff is on a corpse hanging on the window surrounded by 3 rot flowers. We are using Zamor Mask and Armor in combination with the Veteran Gauntlets and Greaves because they offer good physical resistance and I believe they work very well together. They also give us a lot of poise. I would have loved 3 more poise points and I will explain later in the video why, but I couldn't find a piece of equipment that didn't need another investment into endurance, so I'll settle for this. The Zamor Mask and Armor can be obtained from the Giant Conquering Hero Grave in the mountaintop of the Giants area. From the site of Grace, take a left and then either jump through the gap or take a left down the stairs like I did, then go past the Shadow Cat and Shadow Imps, or kill them if you wish, take a left after the golden circle and wait until the flames disappear. Then immediately run and take the refuge to the right and avoid the fire monk attacks, or kill him as well, and after the flames stop again continue that way and hit the statue so you don't get shot because they deal decent damage. Then continue left and go straight to the lift. Go down the lift and the way you solve the puzzle here is to make the lift go back up so it activates the golden circle, and then lure the shadow giant that's gonna wait before the boss door and defeat him. After that, go straight in and defeat the ancient hero of Zamor and he will give you the full armor and his curved sword. The veteran gauntlets and greaves can be obtained by defeating Commander Niall at the top of the castle Sol. From Church of Eclipse Grace, make a left turn twice, then head into this part of the castle where a few ghosts will spawn. Climb the stairs and head straight into the boss room. It is advised to kill the ghost beforehand because they can teleport into the boss room, making the fight harder. After defeating him, go to the round table hold and buy the pieces from Enya for 8000 runes. I picked 2 talismans that benefit our spells and 2 that benefit the melee gameplay. The first one is the Bull Goat Talisman, and it might be a controversial pick for many people because they believe that poise is useless in this game, which is far from the truth. Poise can help you withstand a hit or 2 if you have a decent number above 50. In this chart you can see exactly how much poise you need to resist hits without being staggered, which is important when you want to use the weapon art or a spell with longer casting time. Right now we are at 64 poise, and I was saying earlier that I'd like 3 more to get to 67 to resist 2 two-handed dagger hits, but luckily not many enemies use daggers, especially two-handed, so we are good. The Bulgot Talisman gives us 33% more poise and it can be obtained from Northeast Caelid, from the Dragon Barrow Cave. Starting from the Dragon Barrow Fork Grace, go along the path until you see the cave. Go inside and you will see a huge bear patrolling. You don't need to fight anyone here, so just run past him to the left and go until you reach the end of the tunnel where you will see a corpse. Loot it to get the talisman. The next talisman is the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, and since we have the poise to tank some hits, it would be wise to take less damage from those hits. 20% less damage with this talisman to be more precise. This talisman is obtained very late in the game, so you might want to equip a lesser variant until you get this one. From the drainage channel in the Halic Tree area, take the eastern exit and go left onto the branch and drop to the concrete beam. Then drop again on the branch to the left and go until you drop to the next beam. From there go up and climb on the branch that connects to the building next to it and drop on the roof. From there carefully drop to the wooden beam and you will see the chest guarded by several pests. Kill them or directly open the chest and loot the talisman. The next talisman is the Magic Scorpion Charm, which is pretty straightforward. 12% bonus magic damage for our weapons and our spells is a no-brainer, and the 10% extra physical damage received is countered by the Dragon Crest Talisman. For this one you need to progress Seluvis questline until you can ask about his scheme, and then he asks you to recover the Amber Starlight. But be sure you collect it early, because if you progress far enough into the game and Seluvis dies, you can miss it. To get the Starlight you need to head to the Altus Plateau, to the Altus Highway Junction Grace. From there follow the road until it splits in two and follow the beaten path to the north through an open cave. Follow the road until you get to the statue. Before it lies the Amber Starlight. Then return to Seluvis and give him the item. The last talisman is the Graven Mass, which boosts our sorcery damage by 8%. To get this you need to be at the Albinauric Rise in the consecrated snowfield area. Be sure to bring a bewitching branch and use it on one of the imps, because you need to make them kill each other. When one of them dies, the tower entrance opens and you can climb to the top and loot it off the chest. There aren't many gravity sorceries in the game, and two of them are direct improvements over the basic ones, so all we are going to use are 3 spells. Rock Sling is our normal damage dealing spell. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it can help us stagger opponents easier, and I personally love to start the fights with this as an opener, because against some bosses I can get to cast it 3 or 4 times until they close the distance. Alternatively, you can use it against flying enemies or enemies at range that won't come near you. It can also trick NPC invaders, because they roll immediately when you cast it, but the boulders are delayed and they hit every time if the opponent is not very close to you. Rock Sling can be found close to the location of the meteorite staff. From the Aeonia Swamp Shore Grace, take a left after the big branch and go straight until you see the ruins. It will be in a chest underground. The next one is the Build's Cherry on Top, Meteorite of Astel. Where do I start with this spell? I think I let the video speak for itself. Even if it deals a lot of damage, the setup for it must be perfect, otherwise we can get cancelled, or if we don't appreciate the distance, we will miss many of the hits. Normally this is our tool against enemies with big hitboxes, such as dragons, worms, the Elden Beast. Hell, I even deleted Maliket from existence with this. Take a look. We can get this spell from the yellow Onyx tunnel in Consecrated Snowfields area. I already unlocked the shortcut, so from the Grace go straight and you will see the boss room. Defeat the boss and you will be rewarded with the spell. The last spell we are using is Collapsing Stars, and it can be obtained from the Warded Catacombs, which can only be accessed after defeating General Radahn. From the Grace go down the stairs and keep going until you reach the big open room. From there look to the left where you can drop down into the Pool of Wrath, and look for the chest near the western wall. The spell is inside the chest. This spell is very situational, because it doesn't have the damage Rock Sling does. It is a little faster to cast, and its main thing is that you can pull enemies towards you, so you can imagine what it's good for. Other than that, this spell doesn't have much going for it. However, I have a combo that I love to use. I use Collapsing Stars to pull the enemies towards me, then I use a Jumping Heavy on them, followed immediately by Gravitas, and another light attack after that. If everything hits, you deal pretty good damage and you get a lot of cool points for it. For the Spirit Ash, I'm always trying to pick something related to the build, but I didn't find anything that I wanted, and Mimic, Lutel and other ashes are used by everybody, so I thought I'd try something different, and that is Stormhawk Dinh. He is very nimble and agile, doesn't have much HP and doesn't deal a lot of damage, but due to his agility he is hard to hit, so if you have good RNG he can last the whole fight, plus he buffs your AR, and as you can see he even saved my butt here. He can be obtained by teleporting back to the starting of the game. From the 4 Belfries Grace, go to this chest and loot the imbued sword key that you will need to open the portal. You know you're at the correct tower by reading the message, Precipice of Anticipation. Open the portal and travel to the Chapel of Anticipation. From there go past the bridge and take revenge on the Grafted Scion, because I bet you didn't beat him at the start of the game. After you defeat him, go back to where we started the game, but don't enter the chapel directly. Instead go to the side entrance to the right and enter the chapel where you will find the chest containing the spirit. For the Flask of Wondrous Physique, we use the Cerulean Hidden Tier, which eliminates all FP consumption for 15 seconds and is vital for nuking big enemies with Meteorite of Astel. The other tier is Leaden Hard Tier, which gives us a lot of poise and is good in combination with Cerulean Hidden Tier for tanking enemy hits, although heavy attacks from big enemies will still break your stance. Luckily, both tiers can be obtained from the same spot. In the Volcano Manor area, at the Road of Inquiry Grace, go down the path until you reach the Minor Earthry. As you approach, you will be greeted by an ulcerated tree spirit. Defeat it to get both tiers. Other consumables are Boiled Crab, which improves our physical resistance by 20%, which is very good for this build. The crab can be purchased from Blackguard Big Bogart once he moves to the south of the Minor Earthry near Leyndell. Gravity Stone Fan is the gravity version of Hoarfrost Stomp. Very fast casting time, very big cone, and sometimes stagger enemies. It doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it can be a good way to end an opponent if the Collapsing Star combo doesn't end the target. It has C scaling in strength and B in intelligence, so the more points you pump into intelligence, the more damage you get. I guess this is it, guys. Hope you liked the build, and I'm sorry if what I presented here is confusing. The idea of showing the Albaster Lord and push and pull build options came while I was almost done with the video showcasing the main build. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know by liking and subscribing. As I said in the beginning, I plan to make a video for every magic type in the game. I'll already have the builds for 5 or 6 types and the idea for at least 10 others. The next one will probably be for either Fire Giant incantations or Godslayer incantations. Let me know down in the comments which one you'd like to see. Also, when I reach 500 subs, I think I can use the community poll feature where I can interact easier with you guys, so you will decide there what builds I make next. Thanks for watching, see ya!